Township Board to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Meltzer.
Mrs. West. Here. Mr. Keys.
Here.
Mr. Pearl, I like your pink tie.
Here. Well, there was a Bravo event for the house.
I like that.
tonight.
Mr. Cannon. Supervisor Cannon.
Here.
Mr. Aragona.
Here.
Mr. Gillaham.
Here.
Mrs. Meltzer here.
Thank you. Do we have any additions or deletions for tonight's agenda?
We do. Apologize. I'm just turning my computer up and running. We are deleting item number 5, item number 12. We have 2 add-ons. Item number 18, District D Golden Street Relief Sewer, and 19, add-on replacement Zoll AED for Public Services Lounge.
So moved.
Also, one other request is to move item 15 to item number 1, but I don't see that person here. Or do you want to just take it up when the petitioner, or when the presenter
If
comes?
that would be okay with the board.
Item 15 is a request of approval of Ethics Board approved documents. So the person that is going to present is not quite here yet.
Okay, is there a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
The
Support.
amended? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gillaham?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, and welcome to your Township Board meeting this evening. If you have anything to say as your item comes before the board, or any item comes before the board, please come to the podium and clearly give us your name and address for the record. If there's something you'd like to talk about that's not part of tonight's agenda, we have public comment cards to your left in the front of the room.
Kim?
Please fill one of those out, and
Wait,
we'll be glad to hear, when the microphones go on, what you have to say. The microphones are for cable TV. We are broadcasting live.
there you go.
And now the microphones are on. We have gone through the pledge. We have approved the agenda with several additions and deletions. And we have welcomed all those who are here this evening. And with that, we'll take item number 1, a resolution recognizing October as Substance Abuse Awareness Month.
At the regular meeting, the Board of Trustees for the Charter Township of Clinton held in the board chambers of 40700 Romeo Plank Road, Clinton Township, Michigan, on the 15th day of October 2019, commencing at 6:30 p.m. Whereas substance abuse, including underage drinking, marijuana, and other drug use, as well as the non-medical use of prescription medications, significantly affects the health and well-being of our nation's youth and people of all ages. Whereas preventing youth substance abuse before it begins avoids addiction and increases a person's chance of living a longer, healthier, and more productive life. Whereas October 2019 is Red Ribbon Substance Abuse Prevention Month, a national celebration to promote a drug-free America, and an opportunity to provide education and awareness to our community about the dangers of youth use of any substances. Whereas the Charter Township of Clinton recognizes that the combined efforts of parents, youth, school, and community are needed to address the alcohol, marijuana, tobacco, and other drug use and prescription drug use of our youth. And whereas the Chippewa Valley Coalition for Youth and Families, a school community coalition, is working to support ongoing youth drug prevention efforts in the Charter Township of Clinton. Now therefore be it resolved that October 2019 will be celebrated in the Charter Township of Clinton as Red Ribbon National Substance Abuse Prevention Month, and will be dedicated to educating our youth, parents, and community about the dangers of youth use of alcohol, marijuana, tobacco, and other drugs, and youth prescription drug abuse to promote health, to promote safe, healthy, and drug-free youth.
So moved.
I'm sorry, that this be further resolved, that this resolution, having been adopted by the Charter Township of Clinton Board, be announced to the public and be made a permanent part of the records of the Charter Township of Clinton.
Moved by Mr. Pearl. Is there a second?
Support.
I'm sorry, Mrs. West supported that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mrs. West.
Yes.
Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mr. Gillaham.
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 2 is request to host annual trunk or treat event at Henry Ford Macomb Hospital.
Okay. They have the building permit, and
We've not had any problem with our building department, police department, or any other with the services that we provide with their request in the past.
I'll move to approve if there's no letter.
I don't see the letter in here, yeah.
There is a letter and there is a map.
There's a map, but this is the application for the building. Oh, what happened to the letter? Usually they send it. Because we need to have the date, or the time and everything on here. So,
Would that be from the clerk's office?
what's that?
Would that be from the clerk's office?
No. It'll be from there.
10/23/19 set up, 10,
That's the date.
25/19,
Yeah.
10/24 event. I'm not seeing the actual time.
Did you guys discuss this in staff today? Because I wasn't able to be there.
It says 10/24 event.
That's the date.
That's the date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no candles and no cooking under the tent. But we don't have the hours of,
We could let them go for 24 hours?
I'm sure it's the normal trick-or-treating hours in the evening.
Right.
Can we just approve it contingent on review with the building department?
Certainly.
You good with that?
yeah. Mhm. You
We're
second?
fine. I'm fine with that.
Is that your motion?
Well, Joe made the motion,
Oh,
so.
Joe?
Mike seconded it, so
Okay.
we're good with it.
So we're going to include,
Yes.
roll call, please.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 3 is approval of local governing body resolution for charitable gaming license for Carroll's Army.
Dear Clinton Township Board, Council, on behalf of Polsky's Pub and Grub, we are requesting the recognition of Carroll's Army Corporation within Clinton Township. Requesting the recognition of Carroll's Army Corporation within Clinton Township. This nonprofit organization focuses on raising money for leukemia patients, families, and research. Carroll's Army is run by armed forces veterans, and it is our pleasure to team up with them to fundraise for their continuing effort within the community. With Polsky's Pub and Grub being a veteran-owned establishment, we continually create relationships with organizations to raise money on a yearly basis, as well as service the veterans during recognized government holidays with no cost to them. As a company, we are looking to continually grow our outreach to charities and people in need within the local community. Carroll's Army would like to host a progressive Queen of Hearts raffle at Polsky's Pub and Grub, with all proceeds being donated to leukemia patients, families, and research. The fundamental purpose of gaming is to benefit charitable, nonprofit, public, or community-based initiatives. Disclosed is the Internal Revenue Services recognition of this nonprofit organization as a public charity 501c private foundation. Polsky's Pub and Grub and Carroll's Army is asking this board to acknowledge this organization within the Township of Clinton for the state of Michigan, so we may proceed with the Queen of Hearts raffle fundraising. Best regards, Carol Auziani. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Is the petitioner here?
No, but I have seen their
Okay.
signs in their building. They do a lot with veterans, and on Veterans Days, they do give free food to the veterans.
I'll make a motion to approve
Thank you.
and also say thank you for the leukemia piece of it.
Support.
Moved and supported. Roll call, please.
And just for the record, all the appropriate documentation from the state of Michigan is in the packet. Mrs. West?
What's the date of the event? Just,
I think that they're going to have more than one event. I think they just want us to recognize them as being a charitable group.
okay.
They'll announce their event as it approaches. Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 4, proposed special land use, a body art studio in the B2 Business Community District.
This commission has held public hearing on the proposal for special land use being a body art tattoo studio in the B2 Community Business District located within an existing building on a property east of Garfield, north of 18 Mile Road, and has made review of the request. We hereby make recommendation for approval of the special land use to permit development of a body art tattoo studio in the B2 Community Business District, the Garrison Tattoo at My Salon Suites, as outlined in the correspondence. This action was approved by unanimous vote, and a copy of the notice of the September 26, 2019 public hearing containing legal description and a sketch of location of the land in question is attached for information and file. This matter was petitioned by Mr. Aaron Michael Brinker, The Garrison Tattoo LLC, 26231 Ronald Street, Roseville, Michigan, 48066. We submit the proposal for consideration and would appreciate advisement of your determination. Sincerely, Catherine Cherry, Secretary for the Clinton Township Planning Commission.
Thank you. The petitioner is here, but it is my understanding that he's going to have a room, and he's going to be running that room from the salon that's already there, and he won't even be there full-time, so it will be by appointment only. And is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that was actually 100% correct.
That's pretty easy.
So he's running space, so welcome to Clinton Township.
Thank
And
you.
you're, can I?
Yeah.
So do you have tattoos?
Yes, I do.
Because you're all covered up. I'm surprised you're not, like, displaying.
That would be advertisement,
I
right?
know.
Would be better advertisement, yes.
You always say no signs or, you know.
No neon blinking lights.
Well, now it's your turn to ask Mrs. Meltzer.
He couldn't be more wrong.
Is there a motion to approve?
You had a
I
question.
had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you very much for being here. So I guess I'm just a little confused because when I look at the site plan, there's a ton of chairs throughout. Is that the salon, and then you're taking up a couple areas of that?
For the site plan, I believe, yes. I'm literally taking 121 square feet roughly in one, like, sliding glass cubicle, I guess you
Oh,
would
okay.
call it. Yeah, so there are 30 other units,
Oh, I can help.
mine just being one of them.
I can help.
Okay.
I can actually help with that
Yeah.
question. So the business that's there, instead of being like one big salon, you know, if you're a hairdresser or you're a barber, you can rent a small space. So people come in, they walk through a hallway, there's like a sign saying, all right, Mr. Key's hair appointments, whatever, and you walk into your devoted space instead of it being like an open floor plan.
Okay.
So not just that, Aaron now is going to have his own like small tattoo parlor, and there's actually, help me out, there's a few other places that aren't hair, right? There's like,
Yes, there's a couple permanent cosmetics, microblader, nail technicians, so.
yeah, the microblader is why the planning commission felt very comfortable having the tattoo parlor in there, because that also uses sharps, so it's exactly.
Say, what's a microblader?
The eyebrow thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they basically make small incisions to form an eyebrow for women who choose to draw them on every day. Now they don't have to.
So it's a similar procedure to
Got
a
it.
tattoo.
Okay.
That's a pretty good-sized building. It was the former Blockbuster building that for many years was very active and very productive, which is no longer something that we utilize. Mr. Dolan?
Mr. Chairman, I just wondered if we can get a clarification by the motion maker whether a condition of the grant of special land use is that it's confined to the area that he's described.
Yes. I'll make the motion, and yes. That was something that I asked at the planning commission level. They were confining this only to the 121 square foot.
Right, so that's a condition of grant.
Support.
Reasonable
I'll
conditions can
support
be
that.
imposed on a special
Oh, you already
land use.
supported
Yeah,
Putting
I'll
that
support
into
it, but I have a couple more questions. So in looking in that type of business plan, I guess this question isn't technically to you, maybe to Mr. Dolan. When we look at a business that sublets out that many spaces, is our building department going in at all and doing any type of checks when they bring in a new client or new business?
When they got the building approved to begin with, because this is not the only place we have in Clinton Township like this. We have several over on Hayes Road.
Right.
Between 19 and Hall Road, very successful. But no, the building department inspects every inch of every building.
And so then this particular use will just be confined to his, cubicle is probably the wrong word, but I'm going to use it, just your cubicle within that business. And so that'll be the only area within the entire business that you can actually do tattooing. Is that the way I'm understanding this?
Yes.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 6,
Thank you.
a request to hire a firefighter chief or two firefighters?
Firefighters.
Two firefighters.
Dear Honorable Board members, I'm writing to request approval to proceed with the hiring of 2 firefighters to join the ranks of the Clinton Township Department of Fire Rescue EMS. The hiring will fill the vacancy created by the retirements of Captain Joe Repshas and Captain Dave Hino. Joe and Dave will be retiring on November 15, 2019. 4 members of the department are scheduled to be off on short-term disability starting the months of October and November. Due to this, we are asking to proceed with the hiring as soon as possible. Our goal is to complete the hiring process and start the new firefighters by November 4th, 2019. An offer of conditional employment will be given to Michael Loveless, who is presently employed as a firefighter paramedic with the Rochester Hills Fire Department. The second offer of employment is pending. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Should you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me at any time. Sincerely, Tim Duncan, Clinton Township Fire Chief.
This letter was written before we had the second retirement and before we knew of the 4 that we're going to have on light duty or even off with disability. So the chief is here tonight, I think, to ask for a second replacement immediately.
That's correct. We'll probably be able to get the first one up and working by November 4th. We're going to be hard pressed for the second one by that time period. So at this point, we'd be shooting for probably November 11th. We did put a conditional offer out, which obviously pending board approval on all of this, to another individual today. I promised not to use his name. He has accepted, and we're very excited for both candidates if they're coming on board with us here soon. So.
Okay, so the
Move
request
to
is
approve.
Thank you.
Support. And so just real quick, so Chief, did you, start the process for the one and then go and take a number 2 along with them then? And that's the conditional that you're speaking of? Or-
So on our list, we have the rule of 5s. We bring in 5 candidates for each position that becomes open, interview them, they go through backgrounds, everything like that. And in some cases, there may be an individual that is going to fit the purposes of the department a little bit better at this point than somebody who might be in front of them. In the one case, that's what happened. So we do have that ability. There were 2 of them that still needed one of their tests, the physical agility test that they have not passed yet, that we had to bypass. So as part of the process, we can select any of the 5 that we interview.
All right, thanks.
Is there a motion to hire the 2 firefighters? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and a second.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes,
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
thank you. Item 7, approval of appointment to a part-time ordinance enforcement officer position.
Dear members of the board, the building department is recommending the appointment of Mr. David Shield to the position of part-time ordinance enforcement officer. Mr. Shield currently works for the department as a seasonal ordinance enforcement officer. The appointment constitutes a change in status for Mr. Shield from seasonal to permanent part-time. This is a budgeted position. The hourly wage is set at $20. Upon board approval, Mr. Shield's first day in this position will be October 16, 2019. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
And I've had an opportunity to witness his work performance prior, and it's very good, and we're lucky to have him stay on like this.
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Mr. Pearl, supported by Mr. Gilliam.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no, I thought it was, okay, no, go ahead.
Miss,
I didn't hear Mr. Pearl make the motion.
Miss, oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the board members, when we look at both these positions, because we'll have another one coming up, is there a motivation or an interest of this board to look at making these union positions? From talking with Mr. Smith, there's a couple different ways a position can become unionized, and one of them is the board actually requesting that he approach the union about that.
The answer is, our budget will allow us to do what we're doing tonight, and to put them in a union and make them full-time, it would not allow it.
And is it a requirement that if they are full-time, or that if they're in a union, they have to be full-time? Because I know we do have some part-time individuals here at the township, I
That I
believe,
don't
are in
know.
a union.
they have to be
Is
full-time.
that Mrs. Bednar?
We do have some part-time employees in the DPW union, which is a different union.
Right.
So we do have that, but I don't know. That was negotiated as part of their negotiation and a letter of understanding to be able to do that.
Thank you. Well,
That was what just happened.
I think I'm still interested in pursuing that. Is there a way to ask Mr. Smith, whether it be to get something drafted and share it with board members, or, however you feel
I don't understand what you're asking for.
What I'd like to do is have our HR director contact the union representatives that he feels appropriate and see if we could get these two positions within the union.
The union has agreed to allow these two positions to be the way they are. They have signed off on that.
I don't know that it's even appropriate for us to do this, to make that request. I think
Okay.
that is up to the union, and I think it is appropriate for us to make that request.
I'm going to have Mr. Dolan weigh in on this, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this whole discussion actually should be deferred at this point, and you can take some of these issues up with Mr. Smith and Mr. Towner. It would be my impression that we're starting to get into an area that would be better left on, without further discussion at this point, because there's issues that relate to whether or not these relate to negotiations and should be handled in the context of negotiations versus, a discussion now is.
Okay, and I can completely understand that, and I'll get with Mr. Smith again. The first time I got with him, he told me that it would be up to the board and that we should look at if we want to do that directing him. So I'll be happy to get with him again and see if he can convey that over to board members and figure out the best way to
I think
come about
that's,
that.
have some input with him and make sure we're clear on it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Further questions? Roll call.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Melcher, yes, motion passes.
Item 8 is approval of appointment to a part-time ordinance enforcement officer position.
Dear members of the board, the building department is recommending the appointment of Mr. John Glass to the position of part-time ordinance enforcement officer. Based on interview results and civil service testing procedures, the department is confident Mr. Glass is well qualified and will be an asset to the township. As a condition of employment, he will be required to successfully complete a background investigation and a pre-employment medical examination, including drug screen. This is a budgeted position. The starting hourly wage for the position is set at $20. Upon board approval, Mr. Glass's first day of employment will be October 16, 2019. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. And we have a full-time ordinance officer, also Dave Pavlovich, who does a wonderful job. By hiring these two, it will allow us to keep both of our trucks that are clearly identified as ordinance officer enforcement trucks on the street all the time. They do a good job now. There's a lot of work to do. This will help to clean up some of the things that we've been hoping to clean up.
Does Mr. Glass have experience in the area of ordinance enforcement? I mean, because I don't think there's anything attached to this. Are you Mr. Glass?
I am.
Ah,
There
okay.
you go.
Hey, excellent.
Hey.
Just kind of hiding in the back.
Okay, all right. So could you just like introduce yourself to the board, or, I mean, so we're doing this based upon the recommendation of our planning, or rather of our building department director, and we're comfortable with that. But we also know that the nature of this job it's a tough one. You're out there interacting with the community, and you're sort of telling them that they have to adhere to rules that, they otherwise, didn't, or, haven't, they haven't been inclined to do so up to this point, right? So,
I'm retired from the sheriff's department after 30 years.
oh, great, okay, yeah,
The last 15 years, investigations and narcotics. A matter of talking to people, I can do that.
great,
Without
okay.
getting carried away. I had a couple years where I was a supervisor out in Macomb Township on afternoons. Part of that dealt with a little bit of ordinance enforcement.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
I'm familiar with the job.
good, okay, all right, well, great. I'm glad you were here, and glad you got the chance to introduce yourself, and we had the chance to meet you.
I appreciate you being here.
I knew of your background because I had received calls recommending you. So, but I didn't want to say everything that he just said, but since he said it, it's
Right,
fine.
exactly, right.
That's fine. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Pearl, supported by Mr. Keys. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes,
Mrs. Melcher, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 9 is approval of appointment to water and sewer foreman position.
Dear members of the board, the Public Services Department is recommending the appointment of Mr. John Logan to the position of Water and Sewer Foreman. This appointment constitutes a promotion within the department. Based on interviews, the department is confident that Mr. Logan is well qualified for the position. Mr. Logan's salary will be at $72,461. Upon Township Board approval, the appointment will be effective October 16, 2019. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. And Mrs. Bednar, would you please introduce your 27-and-a-half-year employee who's done a fabulous job, and I know he's going to continue in his next
Yeah.
level up?
Sounds good. This is John Lahan, and he is going to be our new foreman. Kenny Sobchak is retiring at the end of the year. So I'm pleased to introduce you to John, if you haven't met him before. A great guy, and we're looking forward to having him join us in the next step up in his career.
Thank you. Thank you for attending tonight.
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Keys. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 10, approval of appointment to election coordinator position.
Dear members of the board, the clerk's office is recommending the Township Board appoint Ms. Mary Jermez to the position of elections coordinator. The recommendation is based upon civil service testing and an interview conducted by department management. As a condition of employment, she is required to successfully complete a background investigation and a pre-employment medical examination, including drug screen. Mr. Jermez's starting salary will be $54,099 as outlined in the non-represented employee pay and benefits policy. Upon Township Board approval, her starting date will be November 18th, 2019. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources
And
Director.
this is a budgeted position.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gilliam. Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11 is approval for purchase of a generator for the fire department.
Dear Honorable Board members, I'm requesting approval for the replacement of the building generator located at Fire Station 3 at 16720 Clinton River Road at a cost of $24,000. This is a budgeted item, however, the low bid came in at $4,000 over what we budgeted. I'm requesting the overage be deducted from the $25,000 contingency in the capital outlay fund. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Respectfully, Timothy Duncan, Fire Chief.
Okay,
And I-
several things are also occurring with this at the same time. One of those is I'm hoping the board will waive any inspection fees since we're just simply paying ourselves back. Obviously, we need a generator for the fire hall because if we were to lose power, which we have, and the doors don't go up, the fire trucks don't do us much good. So that's a necessary item. However, we have just signed a request through the state to receive some equipment, and some of that equipment is a generator. Some of it is a fire truck, and there would be no cost to the township whatsoever. So what we're asking for is approval, should we not get that gift from the state for this $24,000 item with a waiver of fees. And if we do, simply the $24,000 will remain in the fire department budget. As everyone on this board knows, any money that is generated for the fire department is used exclusively for the fire department. Is there anything else, Chief, to add on that?
Well, that's correct. We, through a lot of meetings we go to, we reached out to the DNR, local DNR, and always looking to turn over the next, benefit we can find. So they approached us, and we're hopeful that we might be able to get some of this equipment. Obviously, no guarantees,
Right.
but we're always looking.
So this is a backup plan.
Just
Do we-
like the
do we
backup
know-
generator. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Do we know how long it'll take the state?
I don't think we do. I think it's going to be a pretty quick decision on the part of the state.
Yes, it should be. It was a matter, we had to sign that document, which was basically a agreement to, help them out in the need that if arises
Right.
for the local fires or anything like that. So we did do that. It's pretty much comes down to a first come, first serve basis. So we're waiting to hear when they're available. And once they do, we're going to travel out to the location they're at, take a look at them and see if it might benefit us and other departments throughout the township. So
That's good. So there's a motion I'll make the motion to receive and file the letter and pay up to $24,000 should we have to, and to waive any inspection fees on any generator that's installed.
Support.
Thank you.
Mr. Argona, did you say that? Did you support?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right.
It's okay. I got a lot today.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. West? Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And I'd just like to point out, item 12, which is deleted, is something that we're looking at from the same grant to get it for the DPW garage. And we have the same situation there. If we have a power outage and we can't get our trucks out to do whatever it is they have to do that day, there's a big problem. Thank you. Item 13, resolution to approve payment of the Clinton Township portion of the 2019 Oakland Macomb Interceptor Drain Extension and Improvement Project.
Dear members of the board, earlier this year, the Oakland Macomb Interceptor Drain, or OMID, Drainage Board and Great Lakes Water Authority, GLWA, agreed to amend the wastewater services contract to permit the OMID Drainage Board to assume the capital improvement and day-to-day maintenance responsibilities of the wastewater facilities serving 23 communities in Macomb and Oakland counties, including Clinton Township. These wastewater facilities were originally constructed in the 1970s and are located within the city of Detroit. Please see the attached map. On September 18, 2019, the OMID Drainage District approved Assessment Rule Number 1 for the extension improvement project of the OMID Drain. This project consists of two segments. The first segment is the cost for acquisition rights and contribution in aid to capital payment to GLWA. This segment will cost $11,920,000. Clinton Township portion of this assessment is $1,687,132.96, which is 14.15%. The second segment is the rehabilitation of the wastewater facilities acquired by the contract amendment. The district believes the proposed rehabilitation project can be undertaken without the necessity of increasing the sewage rates to its customers due to the significant savings associated with this contract amendment. The estimated cost of the rehabilitation portion of the project is $88 million. Clinton Township has the option of prepaying its entire share of the first segment of the project or pay the assessment over 6 years. After discussing these options with Township Treasurer Paul Gilliam, Assistant Finance Director Mary Hine, and myself, we are recommending the Township Board adopt the attached resolution stating we would like to prepay our entire share of the assessment in the amount of $1,687,132.96. This payment will need to be made prior to December 2nd, 2019. This action will save the township $82,021.27 over the next 6 years. If you have any questions, please feel free to give any of us a call. Sincerely, Mary Bednar, Director of Public Services.
This is a very good idea. I don't think we could get $82,000 in interest if we were to put the money into a savings account. I know that the reason it's 14% that we're paying is because of the 23 communities, that's the portion that we use. So we're simply paying our percentage. Mr. Pearl?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mary, the department's saying the $88 million reconstruction will not be charged back to us?
That is what they're indicating at this point in the letter. I actually took this letter and tried to make it hopefully clearer than the letter that they submitted to us, which was 2.5 pages plus a bunch of attachments and so forth. So this is what they're saying at this point. They believe that they'll be able to not have to have a, rate increase because of these improvements. The big thing to remember is this used to be owned by DWSD, or now Great Lakes Water Authority, and we meaning the county / OMID, have better bonding ratings. So just in the interest rates alone, they're saving considerable amount of money with being able to bond these and so forth. So that's why they believe that, you got to spend a little bit of money to save a lot of money in the future. And that's where they're going with it.
So in the past, Detroit would have just billed us.
Actually, would have been part of our rate increases from Detroit when we got them.
So why didn't they include the startup in the whole thing? How did they end up separating the $88 million from the balance of the $100
I
million?
believe this takes care of any of the capital costs or any expenditures that Detroit already has into the system. So this makes Detroit whole, and then we go forward. But that would be more of a county or an OBID question, but I believe that's what I got out of the letter that I read.
And the interest they were going to charge us was 1.8%?
I believe that was correct. Hold on. Yes, correct.
And that still is going to save us money if we don't use that 1.8%? We're still
We
going to...
can, if I can, so
What?
we can make about 1.8 right now, although we are limited and interest rates are falling. But I would prefer just to clear the deck on this, get this payment off, and rather than deal with bonding and having on the debt load for the township.
I like that.
I think it makes more sense to pay
Do
it.
you know where the funds are coming from? Because I don't see finance.
Water and sewer funds.
Finance was involved in the decision.
Yep.
And we have how much in that fund? Or-
Enough to cover this, for sure.
And it's not going to affect our rate
It
increase?
is not going to, no, well, so, you know, we have reserve dollars for capital expenditures. We know that our system is connected in with the county system, with the Detroit Water Sewer System. And so we know that there's capital expenses, and that's coming into the system. That's part of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but that's part of the ready-to-serve fee. That's why we do a ready-to-serve fee on our water and sewer bills.
Okay, it's just interesting that they, and I happened to see Candace Miller tonight and asked her about it. She says, you know, you don't have to pay that up front. But I see it's our recommendation to pay it up front. It's just interesting that they're going further south into repairs to that pumping station or whatever it is. I'm wondering, Mary, how far do we go with this? Is this the limits?
So this portion, as you know, we've been, Candace Miller's office, Commissioner Miller's office has been doing other projects along 15 Mile Road and Garfield. That would be the Macomb Interceptor Drainage District, which is just serving Macomb County. This is the portion which is the Oakland Macomb OMID. Okay, so this basically starts at the Northeast Pump Station, which is where Great Lakes Water Authority monitors and meters our flow, meaning all of OMID, the 23 communities. They look at it and they say, this is how much flow is coming in, so that when it gets to the treatment plant, they know how much is from 23 communities versus how much flow came from their own community, the city of Detroit. So that is where the meter pit is. And then that line has no taps in it. That is just transporting Oakland and Macomb, the 23 communities. So just like 15 Mile Road, just like Little Mac or Beaconsfield, we have to constantly be doing upgrades to our system, and the MID has to do it. Well, OMID has to do it as well. We don't want anything horrible to happen, so they're being proactive and getting in there to do rehabilitation.
So
And
we have to take over, in other words, the two counties have to take over the northeast sewage pump.
that's what this first portion, this segment is, to allow them to make the city of Detroit, or, excuse me, Great Lakes Water Authority whole. And then they're going to do the maintenance, or not the maintenance, but the monitoring of the pump station and the flow, because it affects what happens at the treatment plant. But we're doing the day-to-day operations, we're doing the day-to-day maintenance, and we're going to be doing any of the projects in the future to, maintain its integrity.
So going south along Van Dyke, they show a line. Is that what they're rehabilitating?
Yes, if you look at the map, you have the red rectangle at the very top. There's an arrow that says Northeast Sewage Pump Station.
Right.
That's one portion. They're going to be upgrading the pump station. And then you'll see the number 105, and then you can see, and then it's 104, and then it turns the corner and goes south along Van Dyke at 103. If it comes all the way down and it comes across Gratiot, and it goes all the way down to 101 at the very end, that's the whole sewer there that goes into the treatment facility.
So
In Great
is
Lakes.
the treatment facility at Mack Avenue?
Yes, it's in that area.
So that's going to be the end of that line. We don't.
That's what we are maintaining at this point.
A Waterworks Park.
And I should rephrase, that's Waterworks Park. And let me rephrase it, we meaning OMID, not Clinton Township.
Yes, I knew you
Okay.
meant that. Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to receive, file the letter?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Support.
So the motion's to adopt the resolution and pay, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Up front.
It's not,
No, yeah, no, see, fine.
Mr. Keys, did you support that? Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 14, request approval of the relocation of precincts 16, 32, and 43 for voting purposes.
Dear board members, in accordance with Michigan Election Law, MCL 168.662, the Election Commission of the Charter Township of Clinton is requesting approval to move the locations of precincts 16, 32, and 43 from Cross Lutheran Church, which is located at 35851 Utica Road, to Huron Academy, which is located at 36301 Utica Road, effective with the March 10th, 2020 presidential primary election. Sincerely, Kim Meltzer, clerk. And I would like to announce, if I could, just recognize Cross Lutheran Church for its years of commitment to the election process and for opening their doors for us and allowing us to host elections there. They've been a great host, and they don't know this yet because I had to wait for board approval in order to do that, but I will be letting them know. It is just, with more and more voters, it's just becoming too tight of a location for us to host the elections and still be in compliance with election law. So we were brainstorming, and I thought, gosh, what about that Huron Academy, which is it's a charter school, which is a public school, and is allowed under election law to host elections. And it's my understanding, this may be the first charter school to host an election, if the principal is correct. I think he was looking into that. But they're open to us coming there, so we're very grateful to them as well. And there'll be a lot more room for voters to exercise their right to vote.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Roll call, please.
Just real quick, though, if I can. A lot of the schools are shutting down, Ms. Meltzer, while the elections are taking place. Is Huron doing the same thing, or, have those been part of the discussions or not? Or-
Yeah, some schools will be shutting down, but others not. In this case, their schedule was already set, so they'll be they'll request either law enforcement officers to help with that election day on March 10th, but they also may have other people directing traffic and so on, so it'll be.
But that's not, so they're not requesting that at their expense. That's at our expense, right? If we're having to provide.
Yeah, and we've done that for the schools that we generally host elections
Okay.
for. If they ask us, we provide that service, yeah.
Do we pay them to?
We pay the fee.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. And what is that fee?
It depends on the law officer's pay scale.
Oh, no, but I'm saying, is there a fee for actually holding the election there? Are we
We pay
renting space
them,
from
I think
them?
it's $100, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
$150. Yeah, we don't.
So they're not making any money
Oh,
off of this?
no.
They're doing
No, no.
it to
This is a
participate in
service.
democracy?
Yeah, this is a
Okay.
service, and they recognize that, and that was part of when their board met, where they were honored to be part of servicing and giving back to the community. So
Okay.
I appreciate their willingness to host this.
And so when the students are there, they think they can accommodate us as well,
Yes.
3 different precincts? Okay.
Oh, yeah, much bigger opportunity for us to host the elections and make it much more convenient.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Now, item 15, request approval of Ethics Board approved documents. There was going to be a presentation, and that was a voluntary thing that he was going to do. Apparently, he wasn't able to make it this evening. If the board wishes, we can postpone this for 2 weeks, or if you don't have any problems, we can move ahead with it. Mr. Keys?
I was really looking for the presentation, so not that we have to hold anything up. I don't know if they have a meeting scheduled within the next 2 weeks. If so, then maybe we can just approve it and ask for a presentation later. But if they don't have a meeting scheduled, I'd be inclined to just ask that he come to the next meeting.
That he's available
Yeah.
to attend. Okay, make that a motion.
So I'll make a motion to postpone to the next regular scheduled board meeting.
No, not the regular scheduled board meeting. We don't need to add more to that
Well,
meeting, please.
what I think I heard you say is if they have a meeting scheduled before, that it's approved, but you would still like to have a presentation.
Mr. Cannon,
Mr. Dolan?
I apologize for interrupting, but I did have some comment on this, and I was
Okay.
hoping that he was going to be here. I tried to reach Dan this afternoon. I just gotten his number from Stephanie and called and left a message. There really is one correction that's needed and then just another suggestion. And in the correction is, under the portion of their rules that refer to public comment, they make a statement that there will be no public comment allowed at hearings. And to the extent that a hearing is a meeting, you have to have public comment allowed. There was a way to do that. You can complete your hearing, and then following the completion of the actual hearing, you can allow public comment. But to the extent that they're meeting and conducting a hearing, they still, regardless, have to have a public comment section to be compliant with the Open Meetings Act. So that's my one comment. That's under the portion of their rules that refers to public participation.
Okay, that's probably why it's good to have him here, because I thought I read in here that there was public comment at the beginning of the meeting, which would fulfill that part of the,
Yeah, so if I may,
Yeah.
Jack, I saw that too. It actually says each person may speak for 3 minutes, and then the next sentence is, public comment shall not be permitted at hearings. And I actually forgot I was going to ask you about that. I took that to mean, for instance, here at this meeting, after each agenda item, somebody can get up and speak, and then we have an actual public comment meeting on anything afterwards. So I think it just needs to be a little bit
I agree
more
with Joe. I
defined.
think what they probably were trying to say is that during the hearing portion of the meeting,
Yeah.
you're not going to allow public comment.
Right.
And that's fine. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. But I just think the way it got written up, it needs some clarification. It really should refer to that as opposed to just saying no public comment at a hearing.
Yeah, I would agree.
And
I think one word could change it. Just take the at hearings, at out, and put in during, because
Or they could just define that public participation occurs at the beginning or end of the meeting or both, and it doesn't occur during the hearing process. Is that?
I think if you want to approve it, Bob, we can just approve it contingent on them
I
making
don't
the
think there's
corrections
any
noted.
urgency to approve it tonight.
Mr. Cannon?
Yeah.
If I could just amend my motion, I'll make a motion to postpone to November 12th to make up for the late October meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second?
Support.
Roll call?
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 16, introduction of Township Ordinance 462.
Okay. This is introduction, revising Chapter 886, the vehicle sales, establishing that license expired December 31st of each year. So this is updating and as well as the fee schedule. It provides for the fee schedule to be set forth in the fee schedule ordinance, revising procedures for revocation, including grounds and time periods, providing for repeal or severability and effective date. So this would be the introduction for that. So that's in line with the other permit processes that we administer, so that it just makes it so that all the permits and licensings expire at the same time.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Oh,
Support.
to introduce, correct?
It's, yeah,
To introduce, I'm sorry.
yeah.
So Mr. Keys made the motion to introduce and supported by Mrs. West. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 17 is a request by our attorney to go into closed session with legal counsel with written opinion regarding Lipke Road incinerator site We will not be coming out of open session.
So moved.
Close, out of closed session. We're not
I'm
becoming.
sorry, out of closed session.
And I'm sorry, who made the motion? Mr. Keys?
Mr. Keys,
Mr. Aragona?
supported by Mr. Aragona. Roll call,
Mr.
please.
Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes,
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
thank you. And item 18 is the District E Golden Street Relief Sewer change order.
Dear board members, the District E Golden Street Sanitary Relief System and Water Main Replacement Project is substantially complete. The project site is now in the restoration phase of construction. AEW Department of Public Services personnel and the Macomb County Department of Roads permitting personnel visited the site to observe the degraded conditions of Strathcona Street. AEW, the Clinton Township DPS, and Macomb County Department of Roads agreed that the previous condition of the pavement was extremely poor and construction traffic from this project worsened the condition to a point causing safety and maintenance concerns. Several options were considered for this repair. The best option to make a safe long-term road repair with minimal maintenance is reconstruction of approximately 110 lineal feet of road. Using the current contract unit prices, we estimated an additional $50,222.56 would be needed for removal and replacement of the noted section of Strathcona Street. Outside the additional subcontractor mobilization for the paving work, the contractor has agreed to hold unit prices for the repair work. Since this is part of a cost share with the Macomb County Department of Roads, we will be requesting a 50% contribution for the repair of this section of road. The change in work scope for this construction contract requires Clinton Township Board approval. Applying the 50% match from the Macomb County Department of Roads, the estimated net increase to the contract amount is $25,111.28 for these scope changes. This additional cost, along with all other prior and pending contract modifications, would revise the construction contract amount, which would be $1,818,613.51, which is the original, to $2,032,097.46, which is 11.7% increase. A detailed breakdown of all existing and proposed contract modifications is enclosed with this letter. Due to the safety and maintenance concerns of this section of road and other conditions described herein, we recommend the Township Board approve this scope change. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Manager with AEW.
Mr. Chabot is here this evening. If there are any questions of the board members? Mr. Keys?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cannon. Thanks for being here, Scott. One quick question, and maybe it was in the letter and I'm missing here. Who is the contractor for this project?
Paymar Enterprises?
Okay.
It's not in the letter.
Okay. And then the only other thing I'll note is I see we're removing a couple more trees.
Well, I put that in there as an item, that's a possibility. I talked to the contractor today, and I want him to take a closer look at it. Being that we're only affecting maybe one side of the root system on this, trying to save those two trees. But I want to at least have that cost into this budget now, just in the event that, because there's going to be a little bit of grade changes, I don't want to just not have that in there and find out we got to make that, do that work.
Well, I appreciate that being both you and Ms. Bednar a priority for you to keep those trees because, I mean, and I think you all know it because you've driven down there. It's a big deal. Ripping out those almost 100-year-old trees from that neighborhood have had a real impact. So hopefully we'll see that even if these two are removed, that we have a replacement mechanism here at the township where we can replace those at no cost to the residents.
We've been doing that throughout the whole project as well.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Keys, that is actually the town, as part of the water project, these are being replaced. If people would like them to be. We did have some residents who did state that they did not want their trees replaced. And so we're not forcing them because they are their trees. They're in the right of way, but they're their trees. So, but there are some people who are not replacing their trees.
No, and I can absolutely understand why growing up in that neighborhood, a lot of people complain about the trees being the cause of the sidewalks obviously lifting up. So I can definitely see that, but it definitely has an impact when you're driving up and down.
And sewer leads.
And sewer
They're
leads, yeah.
impacting the sewer leads.
And that looks like a silver maple.
It
Both
sure
are
does.
silver maples.
I'll go ahead and make the motion, Mr. Cannon.
Is there a second?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Pearl?
Just so, if I could, Mr. Chabot, thank you. So the 1.8 to the 2.032 million.
Yes.
So this project is 50,000, but our cost is 25,000. roughly. But, and the other changes have already been approved, right?
On the second sheet, yes, there's a number of modifications that have been approved either by the board or just through the project itself. There's a couple
just-
pending items that are primarily related to the tree work that's been going on, but that's all been incorporated as part of that number.
All right, so if those have already been approved, we incorporated that number into this letter, but what we're really taking action on tonight is the 25,000. Is that correct?
No,
Or-
the action, I
Or are
think,
we approving some other stuff other than just the 25 for the road?
If I can just intercede here, what we're approving is the change in scope, which is the adding 110 feet of pavement to be replaced on Strathcona, and if need be, the trees to be removed and replaced if need be. The reason we have that full amount is, remember, we have a township policy that allows us up to 10% that I can approve, or staff, because things happen in the field. So he did give you a breakdown on the third page of what those changes are, but we've been approving those as part of, to keep the project moving and so forth. Those are some of the things that you do in the field and so forth. But now that we're over that 10%, we bring it to you in your attention.
So this additional 50 is the thing that threw it over the 10?
Correct.
Okay, all right, makes perfect sense now, thank you.
Quick question, when will that project start? When will they start tearing out the road and replacing it?
I need to get a final schedule from the contractor, but our hope is to get it done, probably early November. If there's any change in timing, I'll let Mrs. Bednar know and how we need to take action on that.
What's the concern regarding the cold weather coming up? How long? I mean, is that a concern at this point, or is the product so?
Not at this point.
No, okay, so what, not until what, January, February? Do you worry about that, or
You're talking about for paving? Usually you
talking
can
about
go till the
paving.
end of November.
to the end of November? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Yeah, just lastly, I believe right now Golden is open, correct? Both sides of traffic
It's
are
open to traffic and all the restoration, the efforts have been already finished there. There's just some minor cleanup items. And then the street lights still need to go in.
Okay, yeah, because me having to take Little Mac down, it really bugs me. So
Yeah, that's all open.
Yeah, so Strathcona,
It's a
when they
nice
go to
new
do
road,
this
yeah.
work, it is concrete work, so they'll have to close that intersection down while the concrete cures. But yes, Golden is open at this point.
And it doesn't seem like it'd be a concern because that neighborhood specifically has so many different entrances and exits, but you get lost in there. So a lot of people are, focused on their one entrance. And so I was surprised how many calls I got when Golden was shut down.
Yeah, out of habit.
yeah.
We're creatures of habit.
Yeah, so thank you anyway.
Yeah, like I said, the street lights are the last item that DTE needs to install.
And if I remember correctly, it won't be the same type of lights that are going in. It's a little bit newer and it's going to match a little bit more with what we have in that neighborhood, if I remember correctly.
It's one uniform style. Like, I don't have the detail with me,
Yeah,
but
no worries.
it'll be, the last set, I think they had two different styles that were
Right.
along that street.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gannon, one other question, if I could follow up. So when will DTE will put those in before the new year?
I can't guarantee that.
So
I'm not
the
sure
road
when
would
they'll
be
have that
like a
installed.
Thanksgiving gift, and lights might be a Christmas gift, maybe.
They'll call Mr. Keys.
The contractor, I have
Can
been,
relay the message.
Paymer's been on them to get it installed. It's,
Great.
it's their lights and their crews, so,
Yeah, good. Very good.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Smelter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 19 is a last-minute emergency replacement for a part of the AED here in the building that's for not only employees, but also for the residents who use this facility.
Dear board members, it has come to my attention that there is a Zoll AED unit located in the Department of Public Services lounge area. It was not counted among the initial purchase of the new Zoll AED units last year, and it needs to be replaced. Therefore, it would require a budget amendment in the amount of $1,370.86. Assistant Finance Director Mary Hine and Director of Public Services Mary Bednar support the recommendation and proposed budget amendment to purchase an additional Zoll AED unit using funds from the Building and Grounds budget. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Stephanie Middlestead, Administrative Assistant.
Thank you.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Approval of the bills.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Seconded.
Roll call.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the September 30th, 2019 regular Township Board meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
There are no public comments this evening, so a motion to adjourn and go into closed session is in order.
So moved.
Support.
We did those already.
Support.
Roll
Mr.
call,
Keys?
please.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned, going into closed session.